Hello there, and we will be discussing about the instruments of cash. Now, previously we have discussed about the cash itself. Now, we will be discussing thoroughly on the idea of instruments of cash. Now, we've discussed that instruments of cash includes bills and coins and checks. Now, this video will tackle the details on the bills and coins and checks. So we start with bills and coins. Now, bills and coins, if silent, of course, they are considered cash, just as long as, number 1, it is not demonetized, number 2, not mutilated, and then number 3, it should be accepted by the bank for deposit or immediate encashment. Now, what do you mean by not demonetized? Now, yung not demonetized, this is also known as phased out. Okay? Now, if you're holding yung luma na pera, then therefore that cannot, it is bills and coins, but that cannot be treated as cash. This goes also with mutilated cash and coins. So, pag yung pera mo, punit-punit, nahati sa dalawa, o kaya gusot-gusot talaga, it cannot be treated as cash. Okay? And then thirdly, and this is the most important thing, is it should be accepted by the bank for deposit or encashment. Now, the idea here is that yung mutilated tsaka demonetized, this is from BSP and from the rules of banking law. Na ang idea, pag demonetized and mutilated, hindi yan tinatanggap ng bank for deposit or encashment. So, basta present tong tatlong to, then therefore you record the bills and coins as part of your cash. Now, when it comes to checks, we will have a more complex discussion on this because eto medyo technical to. Okay? Now, checks, if silent, of course, they are considered cash. Now, as you can see here, these are examples of checks. Personal check, managers, cashiers, postal money order, traveler's check, and bank draft. Those are all checks. Okay? Now, again, okay yung mga cheque, that is considered cash. Just as long as, hindi siya isa sa apat na to. Okay? So, pag hindi, kung pasok siya dun sa undelivered post-dated stale, tsaka NSF na kung tinatawag, they cannot be considered cash. Okay? Ibig sabihin, yung cheque mo is not a good check. Okay? Now, what do you mean by undelivered check? Ibig sabihin, yung cheque hindi pa na ibibigay dun sa pagbibigyan mo. So, let's say for example, may babayaran kang supplier. Now, ang ginawa mo, syempre, pag nagbabayad ka, nire-record mo na kaagad yung payment. However, what do you mean by undelivered? Nirecord mo na, pero hindi mo pa pala na ibibigay yung cheque. So, yun yung undelivered check. When we say post-dated, ibig sabihin yan, ang idea ng cheque kasi is may date yan. Pwede mo lang i-encash ang check pag dumating na yung date. So this means, when you say post-dated, yung date na nakalagay sa cheque hindi pa dumarating. At dahil hindi pa dumarating, hindi mo pa pwedeng ipa-encash or i-deposit ang checkeng yan kasi siya ay post-dated. Next, stale. Ang cheque, syempre, paano sir kung dumating na yung period? That is a good check na. Yes, pag dumating na yung date, for example, ang date ng cheque is, sabihin na nating October 7. So, lagpas na yan. So, yung cheque ba, pwede ko nang pa-encash or i-deposit? Yes. Now, what do you mean by stale check? Ang cheque, pag hindi mo siya, kailangan ipa-encash mo siya or i-deposit mo siya within a span of 6 months. So, bakit? In the parlance of our banking here in the Philippines, the check becomes stale when it is outstanding for 6 months. Okay? 6 months outstanding. Okay? So, what do you mean by that? Pag ang cheque matagal nang hindi na de-deposito tsaka napapa-encash, then it will become stale, hindi na siya tatanggapin ng bangko for deposit or for encashment. Okay? And then lastly, no sufficient fund or what we call drawn against insufficient fund. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? May cheque tayong hawak, pero yung account, wala palang lamang pera. Now, we will have you can check a separate video regarding how no sufficient fund or DAIF check works. Okay? So, the idea here is NSF, ito yung mga tinatawag nating tumatalbog na cheque. Okay? So, the idea here is, if it is undelivered, post-dated, stale, or NSF, then this means that the checks are not good checks. Okay, ibig sabihin they should not be treated as cash. Now, to check naman, sir, we will have a thorough discussion on the post-dated and stale. Okay? So, paano ba tumatakbo yung stale tsaka yung post-dated? So, this here is an example of check. Now, December 31, 2020, sabihin na natin yan yung date today. So, let's say for example, the date today is December 31, 2020. So, what is an example of a good check? So, let's say for example, ang nakalagay dito is November 2, 2020. So, okay ba to? Yes, that is a good check kasi dumating na yung period. So, may lagpas na nga yung period. So, therefore, the bank can accept this. Okay, dumating na yung period. Now, what is an example of what we call post-dated check? So, post-dated check, ibig sabihin, hindi pa dumadating yung period kung kailan pwede mo siyang pa-encash. So, example, ang nakalagay ditong date, so, ang date natin, December 31, 2020, sabihin na natin nakalagay na date, February 3, 2021. So, this is an example of what we call post-dated check. Bakit? December 31, 2020 ngayon, yung check ay naka-date February 3. Pwede na ba itong i-encash or i-deposit? Hindi pa, kasi hindi pa dumarating yung date. So, post-dated check. What about stale check? So, example ng stale check is that dumating na yung period pero lagpas-lagpas na. So, let's say for example, March 19, 2020. Yan yung nakalagay. So, dumating na ba yung date? Yes, lagpas na. Pero, sumobra naman. So, eto, roughly mga 10 months. Okay, more or less 10 months. So, this, ano bang rule na sa banking natin? Hanggang 6 months lang. Pwedeng outstanding ang check. Therefore, dahil lagpas na siya, this is what we call stale check. Okay? So that is an example of stale check. So again, undelivered, post-dated, stale, and no sufficient fund. Now, what will happen with my transaction when these 4 checks were received or given to supplier or the client? So let's check how a transaction works and how does it affect our financial statements. So let's say for example, in this scenario, we have a seller and a buyer. So what is the recording when you have a transaction? So of course, if you're a seller, your entry if there is a transaction is accounts receivable, sales. Okay? During the sale transaction. Siyempre, if sa sale yan ng isang party, on the other hand, isa tong purchases sa kabilang party. So purchases and then accounts payable. Now, ano ang entry natin pag tayo ay nagbayad? Now, the rule is that sa payment, dapat simultaneous yung payment and then recording. Okay? Now, walang problema kung bills and coins yan kasi pag binigay na yung bills and coins, then therefore, kailangan mo nang i-record yung payment. Now, what we want to take a look here is the effect of checks. Okay? So, pag binayaran ka ng cheque at okay yan, okay, ang entry natin supposedly, okay, is for seller, cash, okay, and then accounts receivable. So, pag nagbayad na si buyer kay seller, ito ang entry niya, debit cash, credit AR. Whereas, pag nagbayad na, sa point of view naman ni buyer, dahil nagbayad na siya, mawawala na siya ng utang, debit, mawawalan siya ng cash, credit. Now, that is the normal scenario. Okay? Now, what will be our guide when our payment is checks. Okay? When the payments are made in checks, you should verify if the checks are what we call good checks. Ibig sabihin, pag good yung check natin, hindi siya undelivered, hindi siya post-dated, hindi siya stale, at hindi siya NSF. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, pag hindi siya included dun sa apat, dapat i-record mo na siya. Okay? Sir, what are the main or the usual errors that happen during this instance na may transaction? Ang nangyayari kasi sa iba is that pag nagkaroon ng payment or collection, hindi mo na chine-check kung okay yung cheque na natanggap nila or naibayad nila. So, ibig sabihin, na-record na nila. Paano sir kung next na nakita namin, ay, nagbayad kami pero it turns out na yung cheque hindi pala okay, not a good check. What will I do with this entry? Pag na-entradahan mo na yan at hindi pala okay yung cheque na natanggap, dapat siya ay i-reverse mo. Okay? When you mean reverse, baliktarin mo lang tong entry. Dahil nag-debit ka ng cash, nag-credit ka ng AR, baliktarin mo lang siya. Para i-cancel yung transaction. Parang lumalabas nito, ibabalik mo sa accounts receivable. Sa point of view naman ni buyer, kung ikaw si buyer, again, ang gagawin mo ulit, reverse mo yan. Kasi yung pinambayad mo, hindi pala okay yung cheque. Therefore, you should reverse your entry. So, parang lumalabas nito, binabalik mo siya sa payable. Okay? Now, so if asked, sir, kung hindi cash yung mga cheque na to, so of course, undelivered, post-dated, stale, and NSF, they are not cash. Okay? So, kung hindi sila cash, ano sila? Now, ang point of view mo dyan is, depende kung sino ka dito. Ikaw ba si seller or ikaw ba si buyer? Kung yung mga cheque na yan ay not good checks, okay, then therefore, kay seller, siya ay receivable. Bakit? Di ba nga, pag hindi okay yung cheque, ibabalik mo siya sa receivable? Whereas, pag ikaw naman si buyer, siya ay magiging payable mo. Babalik siya sa liability mo. Okay? Now, to demonstrate, I've prepared a series of examples for the matter. So, we go first to undelivered checks. Okay? So, example of undelivered check. Check of 600,000. Okay? So, meron daw tayong check ng 600,000 in payment of accounts payable was dated and recorded on December 31, 2020, mailed January 15, 2021. Now, paano ba to? Ibig sabihin yan, may cheque ng 600,000. Ang unang kailangan mong i-determine dito is if you are the buyer or the seller. So, sino ba ako dito? Buyer or seller? So, since may cheque ka, pambayad ng accounts payable, ikaw si buyer kasi ikaw yung nagbabayad. Okay? So, nagbabayad ka ng liability. Now, dated siya and recorded December 31. So, what do you mean by recorded? Pag sinabi mong recorded, ibig sabihin yan, nakapag-entry ka na nung payment. Ano ba ang entry pag nagbabayad ng liability? Accounts payable, cash. Okay? 600,000. Yan ang entry mo pag recorded, ibig sabihin na entradahan mo na siya. Now, okay ba yung date? Dumating na ba? So, kung sabihin na nating end of the year to, sabihin na nating December 31, 2020 ngayon. Okay? Yung date niya, okay. So, hindi siya post-dated. Okay? Kasi okay na siya. Pwede na siyang pa-in-cash. Ang problema, hindi pa niya na-mail. Okay? So, parang lumalabas nito. Ikaw, magbabayad ka sa supplier mo, inentradahan mo na, pero hawak mo pa yung pera. Anong sabi natin? Bakit may entradahan yan? Hawak mo pa rin yung pera. Ibig sabihin yan, wala pa talagang lumalabas na pera. So, to correct, anong gagawin ko? To correct, syempre, you reverse this entry. Now, what will be the effect of this reversal? Pag ni-reverse mo yung entry niyan, ibig sabihin, madadagdagan ang cash mo at madadagdagan ang accounts payable mo. Okay? Siyempre, pag ni-reverse mo yan, yung cash madedebit, yung accounts payable, makikredit. So, madadagdagan ng cash, madadagdagan ng payable by 600,000. Okay? So, analyze mabuti. So, ni-record mo, binawasan mo na yung cash mo, hawak mo pa pala yung cash mo, yung cheque. Ibig sabihin, wala pa talagang lumalabas na cash. So, anong gagawin ko? I-reverse mo yung entry kasi wala pa naman talagang lumalabas. Okay? Next, customer check of 800,000 dated and recorded December 31, 2020 but only received January 15, 2021. So, meron bang nangyayaring ganito na nire-record ko na, hindi ko pa pala natatanggap? Well, mostly kasi, between buyer and seller, ginagawa pala yung cheque, ini-inform na si customer na may cheque na. Okay? So, in-inform ka sa customer check. So, sino ka ba dito? Buyer or seller? Seller, kasi ang cheque mo ay galing kay customer. Okay? 800,000, sasabihin na natin, siguro ang nangyari dito, si customer mo, binalitaan ka na, uy, may cheque na for collection. So, dated and recorded, December 31. So, dahil nga, sabi dyan, recorded, ibig sabihin yan, you have entered the entry for collection. Kasi, ano ka dito? Ikaw si seller, so collection mo siya. Inentradahan mo na ng, okay, ayan, 800,000. Now, post-dated ba siya? Hindi. Kasi December 31 ngayon, December 31 siya, yung check, ibig sabihin yan, okay, yung check, pwedeng in cash. Pero ang problema, hindi mo pa natatanggap. Okay? Nung January 15 mo pa lang siya natatanggap. So, anong ibig sabihin yan? Nag-record ka na may natanggap kang cash when in reality, wala ka pa naman talagang natatanggap. So, ano ba ang purpose ni accounting? To reflect the actual transaction. So, anong gagawin ko? May natanggap na ba akong pera? Wala pa. Anong gagawin ko? I-reverse ko yung entry kasi wala pa naman akong collection na nagagawa. Okay? Reverse again. Now, what will be the effect of this transaction? Ibig sabihin, tataas ang AR, madadagdagan ng AR ko, mababawasan ang cash ko. Kasi, okay, tatanggalan ko ng 800 ulit. Okay? 800. So, that is for undelivered check. Now, we go to post-dated check. Okay? Customer check of 450,000 data. So, customer check. Sino ba ako dito? Dahil customer check yan, ibig sabihin, ikaw yung nangongolekta. So, natanggap natin nung December 31, 26. So, tuwang-tuwa ka kasi may collection ka na. Now, the problem here is, the check is dated January 15, 2021. So, is this considered cash? Of course not. So, what will I do? Ang mangyayari niyan, madadagdagan si accounts receivable mo, mababawasan ang cash mo. 450,000. So again, bakit? Siyempre, ni-record mo na may natanggap ka ng 450,000. Tuwang-tuwa ka, may natanggap kang check, ni-record mo ka agad. It so happen na nakita mo yung date, ay, hindi ko pa pala pwedeng i-record to na collection kasi hindi ko pa siya mapapa-encash sa bangko. Therefore, hindi pa yan cash. Anong gagawin mo? I-reverse mo yung entry mo. Okay? Next, what about if ako si supplier? So, check of 500,000, naka-date siya January 15, dineliver na siya, dineliver mo na siya, tapos na-record mo na. Ibig sabihin, nag-entry ka na ng, ay, bayad ko na to, accounts payable, cash. Tapos makita-kita mo, okay, January 15 pa pala yung date niya. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa siya tatanggapin ni bangko for encashment. So, what will I do? You reverse the entry. So, what will be the effect? Madadagdagan ng cash ko, madadagdagan yung accounts payable ko by 500,000. Now, again, etong effect na to, this is the effect of the reversal. Okay, itinama lang natin yung error. Okay? Next, we go to stale check. Okay? So, stale check. Customer check dated May 31 was recorded. Okay, May 31. Recorded and received. Ano to? Recorded, received, and recorded. Okay. Recorded and received December 30, 2020. So, during December 30, 2020, may customer check ako. So, I should record cash, kasi collection yan, and then accounts receivable. So, na-record mo na siya. Okay? Now, what will be the effect of a stale check? Pag sinabing stale, tatanggapin ba to ng bangko? Hindi. Why? It is long overdue. This is 7 months na siyang overdue. Our rule is that hindi lalagpas ng 6 months. Now, anong gagawin ko? Kailangan i-reverse ko yung entry. Okay? So, the effect of stale check is that madadagdagan ng AR mo, mababawasan ng cash mo. So, how does stale check work? Okay, additional idea lang. Pag sinabi mong stale, ibig ba sabihin, sir, wala na yung pera? Not necessarily. So, tulad nito, May 31, stale na siya, hindi mo siya pwedeng pa-encash. What will you do? Pupunta ka dun sa nag-issue ng cheque, yung client mo, and then magpa-reissue ka ng cheque. Okay? So, pa-reissue ka, sabihin mo, stale yung cheque, pa-reissue na lang. So, ibabalik mo yung stale check, and then bibigyan ka ng panibagong cheque. Siyempre, iibahin na yung date. Okay? So, that is for stale check. What about for NSF? Now, ang NSF kasi tumalbog na cheque. Ibig ba sabihin wala nang chance yan? Not necessarily. So, example, customer check. So, may natanggap ka ng cheque. So, pag nagkaroon ka na ng cheque, ang mangyayari niyan is, record na ako, cash, AR. Kasi okay na yung cheque. Okay? So, yan ang entry mo. Now, sino magno-notify sa'yo na NSF yan? Yung bangko. So, dineposito mo na, okay na. Minarkahan ng bangko na NSF. Okay? So, nung nalaman mong NSF, ibig sabihin tumalbog yung cheque. Ibig sabihin, walang pera, walang value yung cheque kasi walang laman yung account ng client mo. So, what will you do? You reverse your entry. Okay? And then what will be the effect of this? So you will talk with your client, sabihin mo, tumalbog cheque mo, pakidepositohan na lang yung account mo. So if that happens, okay, tumalbog, padepositohan mo, and then pag okay na at may laman na yung account ng client mo, sasabihin ka niya, pwede mo nang i-deposit yan, may laman na yung pondo. So in that case, what will you do is, subsequently, redeposit mo siya. Okay? Now, pag the rule is that, pag nire-deposit mo siya at na-clear siya within the year, okay, cash pa rin siya. Pero pag hindi siya na-clear within the year, then therefore, hindi pa siya cash. So, tulad nito, okay na siya eh. Okay, may natanggap kang cheque, dineposito mo. Kaso, tumalbog. Pinalik mo sa receivable. Nire-deposit mo naman. Kaso, January 10, 2021 pa siya. So, as of December 31, receivable pa rin siya. Okay? What about, sir, etong pangalawang example? Customer check returned by bank marked NSF but subsequently redeposited and cleared by bank on December 28, 2020. So, what will happen here? So, during your collection, etong entry mo. Cash, AR. Okay? Collection. And then, i-notify ka ni bank, it is NSF. So, what will you do? You reverse the entry. Okay? And then, subsequently, clear daw siya. Now, check mo. Kailan ba siya na-redeposit and na-clear? Pag na-clear siya within the year, then therefore, okay na siya as cash. Okay? So, December 28, 2020, pasok siya sa December 31. Therefore, ibalik ko siya kasi collection na siya. So, the idea here is that NSF check is a receivable. If it is redeposited within the year, redeposited and cleared within the year, then therefore, babalik siya sa cash. Pero pag niredeposit siya and na-clear siya after the reporting period, then it will stay as a receivable. Sir, what if nire-deposit siya within December pero na-clear siya January? Alin ang susundin namin? You always follow the date of clearance. Okay? So that is for NSF check. So that concludes our discussion with the instruments of cash. Okay. Now, a thorough discussion of NSF, I will provide a separate video for such.